January 22nd, 1984. You've got the Washington Redskins facing off against the Los Angeles Raiders over in Tampa, Florida for the title of Super Bowl XVIII champion. As we all know, some of the best parts of Super Bowl are the commercials, not the actual game. I don't think anyone truly understood just how iconic Apple's 1984 commercial would become one day. And to this day, it is probably one of the most iconic advertising campaigns in television history. What some people don't know is that this commercial was actually directed by one of the best filmmakers of all time, Ridley Scott. This genius of a filmmaker was behind classics such as Alien, American Gangster, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator, The Martian, and many more. Apple and Ridley Scott decided to make the style of this commercial cinematic. Now they had to fit that movie into such a short commercial period, but they were so successful. This thing looks like a movie in a minute. This commercial is set in a dystopian future very similar to the book 1984 by George Orwell. Individuality is crushed, and it's the right thing to do to conform to the norm. There are no poppy colors, there are no people being different. It's all gray and bleak and boring. There is no hope or innovation. Do any of you work in a cubicle type office where they call them cube farms? This is kind of what this commercial reminds me of. Everyone has the same uniform, everyone has the same seat, same color, same desk, same monitor, same laptop, same mouse pad. It's all the same. Nobody stands out. And this is what Apple was trying to fight against. They were fighting to stand out, to be different, to think different, if you will, which will be another video coming up in the future. At this time, you had a company, IBM. They were the tech giants. There was no Apple iPhone or iPad or Apple Vision. There was no innovation like that. They had grown so strong and so powerful that, in a sense, they had lacked innovation. They had lacked a sense of individuality and to change and to progress because they controlled the market. Apple decided to challenge this market with its Macintosh personal computer, which revolutionized how we use PCs. So not only did they have a product that was actually the first all-in-one desktop personal computer that was mass marketed to the consumers, but they had a commercial that was cinematic enough and big enough to back it up. Now in the commercial, you can see that the person on the screen doesn't look like a very nice person. This is meant to portray Big Brother. Big Brother is actually a fictional character of George Orwell's novel 1984, and he was a dictator of the totalitarian empire Oceania. This character represents someone who doesn't want innovation and free thinkers. Think about the teacher in school. I remember when I was doing math, I always had a different way to solve math problems, and my teacher said, well, you have to solve it this way. If you can't solve it this way, it's not correct. I got the same answer, but I was solving it the wrong way. In many aspects, that was IBM. They had a set way of doing things and they were very successful at doing them. And they did not want to change. Matter of fact, they refused to change. And this ended up being their ultimate downfall. Regardless of them still being in business today, they are not the company that they used to be. I think this shot is incredible. You had this gray and bleak background, everyone looking the same, and then enters our hero with bright and poppy colors running towards that screen with a big hammer. It makes you wonder, what is happening? What is going to happen? It intrigues you, and that is exactly what Apple was trying to do with this ad, and they were very successful. They were trying to grab the viewer's attention and put a focus on their new product, the Macintosh personal computer, and they hit it out of the park. This scene is so iconic. Can you imagine life were like this? That everything was boring and bleak and there was no innovation or color in your life? This is what Apple was trying to fight against because that's who IBM was. Apple was trying to do things differently, and these were Apple's best years in my opinion. Maybe their technology at that time wasn't as good as the technology that Apple has today, but they were the underdog at this time and they had to try something new. They had to think different and they had to innovate, and that's exactly what they did. And then comes the next incredible shot. She throws that hammer right at the screen. We get a little bit of a slow-mo action. You get the bright bursting light of the screen breaking and everyone is going, whoa! It's because they're waking up. She is throwing that hammer at that dictator and saying, stop. Stop making me conform. And everyone in those rows watching this dictator, watching it get blown up right in front of them, are starting to realize that they should not conform. And that's exactly what Apple was trying to get. They didn't want the consumers to conform. They wanted consumers to try their new innovation, one that didn't conform and that tried things differently. And then we see on the screen, on January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh, and you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984. They are going to be different. They are going to innovate. You want freedom? They will give you your freedom. You can get your freedom at Apple and with their products and services, not at Big Brother, not at IBM. They can't give you your freedom. They cannot liberate you. We can. Apple is there to free you and free your mind and creativity. Incredible ad. This commercial is absolutely mind-blowing. It is truly a masterpiece within 60 seconds. And think about it, computers back then, it wasn't like now where you have a MacBook or iMac or PC. It wasn't accessible to the average consumer. These computers were used by these gigantic companies, and not only that, but it was not, in a size that a consumer could just stick in their house. They had to innovate with a new computer, a personal computer, and this paved the road for true innovation to what we have now, our MacBooks and our slim computers, and even the computers that we have on our phones and the other handheld devices that we have. Apple wanted to give its consumers something that was relatively affordable at that time, accessible to the average person, and something that they could just get their hands on and start being creative. When Steve Jobs and his marketing team made this, they loved it. I mean, obviously, how could you not? You watch this ad, it's hard to believe why anyone would hate this ad. But some people did, and those people were the Apple's board of directors. They did not like it and they did not approve of this commercial. It is said that then CEO John Scully recalled the reaction after the ad was screened for the group. The others just looked at each other, dazed expressions on their faces. Most of them felt it was the worst commercial they had ever seen. Not a single outside board member liked it. Now, when Jade Chia learned of the board of directors' disapproval of this advertisement, he did something a little bit interesting, and maybe a little bit risky. Chia had purchased 2 slots to advertise this commercial. One was a 60-second block time during the third quarter, and the second was a more edited down version of the same advertisement, but for 30 seconds a little bit later on. What is a little funny is that when the board of directors advised Chia to sell the slots because they were no longer going to air the commercial, Chia claimed it was too late to sell, and actually he only sold the 30-second block. What he could not have realized at this time was that by him disobeying the board of directors, he put Apple in advertising history, creating and advertising one of the best commercials ever created. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If Apple hadn't paired up with Ridley Scott to make this mind-blowing and thought-provoking commercial of Apple's 1984, and then if they had listened to the counsel of the board of directors by selling those slots for the Super Bowl 1984 commercials, what would advertising and commercials look like today? Because Apple not only changed the personal computer as we know it, they changed advertising as we know it. There are not many people who can say that they have affected multiple industries just by producing 60 seconds of content. Apple, you changed advertising forever with this one commercial. Now, I think there is a deeper conversation on whether or not Apple has become the IBM. Because when you think about it, the majority of people, and I'm speaking mostly of the United States because that's where I live, the majority of people walk around with iPhones, they have their MacBooks, they have their iPads, their Apple Watches, they all have Apple products. If you go to like a college campus, they've all got the same phone, they have the same laptop, they all have AirPods, they all have Apple Watches, they look very much the same. Is that not similar to IBM to a certain extent? Now, Apple does have this incredible innovation and they haven't stopped with that. But, I mean, look at the iPhone 15, for example, and compare that to the iPhone 10. Can't you see a lot of similarities? Similarities are okay, but where is the real innovation? Where is this lady running through to this dystopian leader and saying, no more, I want something different, I want something new, I want something fresh, give me innovation. I don't think Apple does that anymore. And for that, I say, Apple, wake up. Have your new rebirth of 1984. We need something that we can go, that is the future, and Apple changed it forever.